Hey guys, today we're going to talk about PROs, which one is the best, and what decisions or what considerations should you make when you're deciding on a PRO. Now this includes as a writer and or as a publisher. So let's start with PRO. What is it? If you don't know, Performing Rights Organization, PRO. When you hear that, typically you're going to hear people talk about ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. You might hear two others potentially. I'm only going to talk about one other one called Amra. I'll get to that in a second, but really we're going to focus on ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. So what I want to start with is comparing and contrasting the three, because as I get calls from artists or emails or whatever, hey, I don't know which one to affiliate with, what do you recommend? The hard part is it's not like, it's not like a meal, like saying, hey, do you prefer tacos tonight or hamburgers tonight? That's probably even a bad analogy right there. PROs, they all are supposed to serve the same function. And so when you make that decision, the decision which to affiliate with, there's a handful of considerations. All considerations are very important, but there's probably an order of priority. So let's start the compare and contrast process. ASCAP and BMI are by far the largest. BMI, I believe, has about 200,000 more songwriters than ASCAP, possibly another few 100,000 songs in its repertoire. I'm not positive on the numbers, but I believe BMI is slightly larger than ASCAP. But they're compared to CSAC. CSAC is here, and ASCAP and BMI are here. So there's a huge, significant difference between the size of them. So sometimes an artist will ask, hey, should I affiliate? And they'll mention CSAC because they had a friend or colleague or, talk to some other writers. Hey, which do I affiliate with? And they heard the name CSAC come up. And I will usually start by saying, look, if you have no background, no context, and you're not even sure like what considerations to look into, going with CSAC as your first choice, understand CSAC is typically invitation only. It's a for-profit company. It's much, much smaller than the other two. I mean, exponentially smaller. Now, there could be some pros to that. There could be, meaning you might get some more attention. I've had clients that are CSAC writers. I've never heard any of them say they got more attention. I've never heard any of them say they got any attention. But I don't hear a lot of complaints about writers that are with CSAC. So going back to ASCAP and BMI, when you look at the two differences, I'm going to point out just really practically. So when you apply with ASCAP, you can apply for $50, I believe currently, $50 as a writer and $50 as a publisher. And it's a 1-year contract. Where with BMI, I believe it's free for a writer, and right now it's $150 if you're a sole proprietor publisher, and like $250 if you are an entity like a corporation or an LLC publisher. So it's $50 to $100 more if you're with BMI, and I believe BMI contracts are for 2 years, where ASCAP is with 1 year. So part of the consideration is if you wanted to change affiliations, you could do it every year with ASCAP. When I say every year, you would be changing in theory to BMI, which would put you in a 2-year contract, and then in theory go back to ASCAP or CSAC, which maybe puts you into another 1-year contract. So that's some of the trade-off. Now, what are the benefits? Both collect really well, both collect really fast, relatively comparing the two. And so some of it's going to come down to cost, some of it's going to come down to contract, some of it's going to come down to also if you tend to co-write with a lot of writers. So if I co-write with a lot of ASCAP writers and not a single BMI writer, in theory, that's a reason to affiliate with ASCAP because of the simplicity in finding, locating, and accounting for the royalty streams. It's not to say anything's going to get lost if you're with BMI and all your co-writers are with ASCAP, but I tend to believe, and I don't have statistics for this, but I tend to believe that if you write with primarily with a group that's with one affiliation and you haven't affiliated, it may make sense for you to affiliate with the same for ease of tracking, ease of accounting, and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, maybe you wouldn't see a difference. it would be an interesting study to see if you got the same sort of payouts from the same activities if one of your co-writers is with ASCAP and you're with BMI, for example, but that's another conversation for another day. So aside from contract terms, aside from price, aside from collectionability and traceability and all that, ASCAP, BMI both do a great job. The other piece is around benefits. Now, both of them have benefits like discounts on, I think, Songwriter Hall of Fame. I think they both have discounts. They both have certain discounts for like travel, maybe car rental or hotel costs, things like that. And they both also have programs for songwriters. So they have like songwriter camps or they have competitions. So once you start lining up, it may not be an apple for apple comparison in terms of the benefits of each. But I mean, again, unless you have like a specific compelling reason to go with one, you're going to start to feel like they look like the same thing. And look, if you're not making a lot of money as a writer, you know, you may just decide purely based on cost. And in that respect, ASCAP's going to be cheaper, right? Oh, well, if you're also registering as a publisher. Which brings me to this sort of what I wanted to hold down on for the last piece of this video is sometimes I'll get the question, well, I am a writer, but why should I register as a publisher? Or should I register as a publisher? And I will tell you, if you're independent, you're not signed into a publishing deal, you are the writer, obviously, but you're also the publisher. And a lot of writers don't understand that, so they don't register as a publisher. And if they're with BMI, it's like, why would I spend the extra $150? Or, hey, I'm not going to make that much in royalties, so I don't want to waste the money. But the thing is if there's money being generated on the writer side, you're going to get it paid. If you don't register as a publisher, that money's just going into a pot, and eventually it'll disappear. In theory, you can go collect it after a period of time, but I'm telling you in practice, at some point that money's gone. Poof, it's gone. So if you don't register as a publisher, you have no chance of collecting your publishing portion. So when you write a song, if you write 100%, 50%, 5%, you're the writer and you're the publisher. But if you register only as a writer, you will not get that publishing income. It's not going to come to you simply because you're the writer. So you have to register as a publisher. You fail to do that, you don't get the publishing money. So that's it in terms of deciding. Really, the best thing you could do. Oh, Amra. So this is sort of your second bonus for sticking around. Amra is, I think, started in like 2012, 14, 16, somewhere around there. Their emphasis is specific on the DSP collections. So to my knowledge, they don't collect on like restaurant uses. So like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, if your song's playing in a Starbucks or a restaurant, in theory, or a live venue for that matter, in theory, they're collecting on that. Amra does not collect on that. Amra says, we're focused on digital streaming. That's all we're collecting for is the performance side of royalties for digital streaming, which is great if that's where all your money's coming from. But if you have live stuff happening, if you have potential for income with venues, Starbucks, restaurants, things like that, then definitely Amra is not going to cover that, and you can't be affiliated with two P.R.Os at the same time. So if you go with Amra, you're not going to see that other possibility. Now, granted, if you're an indie writer, you may not see that money anyway, simply because it's not there. There may not be enough for you. There may not be money generated. So Amra might make sense anyways. I believe Amra's selling points are we're digital only. We're also faster at what we do because we kind of cut out the middleman, and we don't have to deal with a lot of the nuances that the other three P.R.Os do. So Amra might be the choice. What I'm going to recommend to you before we sign off here is that you'll do some research on your own. You're going to go into each of the websites, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Amra, and look at what are the costs. I mean, I've told you in this video, but look at the costs, the contract terms. In terms of negotiations, you're not going to negotiate that contract. It's a template, it's a form. You're basically signing it, writing a check, giving them your information, and you're done. So it's not like it's a negotiation at all. You're not going to need a lawyer. You might need a lawyer's help in interpreting it or understanding it, but a lawyer's not going to be able to negotiate anything for you in those deals. So then it's really going to come down to where do you feel right? What do you feel is the place for you to be at home? And if all of your co-writers, all the people that you kind of mix with and mess with are with one, maybe that's reason enough for you to be there too. So I'm going to sign off with that.